Hey everyone, it's Desiree and welcome back. Today we are going to create a 5x7 card featuring the Spellbinders Large Die and 3D embossing folder for the month of March 2024. So the die is called Classic Tales, and it creates this beautiful scene, and I think it's very versatile with books and an open book, and you can create your own fairy tales. And we're going to pair it with the 3D embossing folder called Classic Backdrop. This is a beautiful backdrop and can be used for any occasions when it comes to your card making or any paper craft that you do. We're going to first take care of our backdrop. I have a piece of white cardstock cut to 4 3/4 by 6 3/4, and we're going to run that through the Platinum 6 using the platform system and the required plates for that. And you get this beautiful design. And remember, with embossing folders, you can use either side. So I am choosing the side that pops up towards you. I'm going to place that onto a mat, a brown mat that is going to measure, my brown mat's going to measure 4 3/4 by 6 3/4, and then the white is going to measure 4.5 by 6.5. So my apologies there, but you can make them any size you want. Just to save some time, I took care of all my die cutting outside of videotaping, and we are going to start putting our pieces together. So I'm going to start with the books, and it does come with more styles. I'm just choosing 3. So 2 books that are going to be closed, and then the one that will be opened. So kind of creating this pop-up effect when you open up the last book on top. Dug into my scrap cardstock to cut out my images, and we're just layering them together. For the books that are closed, you get the solid piece, and then you also get the layering piece on top. So for the solid piece, I am using 3 layers for that, to give it a little bit more stability and to add even more dimension to the front of the card. I'm using very rustic colors throughout this card front. Even the greeneries and the trees and the foliage, they're not super bright. It's kind of a very neutral rustic tone. But you can, just imagine if you did use, bright tones, the type of different fairy tales that you could absolutely create. The house or the barn, however you want to look at that, you've got 3 different plates, or 4, because you have the chimney that comes up. And I wanted to use that pop of color that just comes off on the chimney, where the other pieces, again, are neutral coming out of the book. I have a piece of scrap vellum here, and I'm using a yellow alcohol marker, waiting for that to dry. I'm going to just cut that little piece out, and that's going to sit behind the open windows there on the right-hand side. So I'll place that to the back, and then I'll trim away the excess, and then that will just give the look of a light inside of that house. I'm also going to prop up the opened book. Now I'm going to use these double-sided foam tapes as well to create the scene. That will help me gauge, okay, I don't want to go past this, so that it doesn't go off the edge. I don't want to trim anything off of my panel. So because I have the house in the back there, I still have the release paper on some of those double-sided foam squares. And when I remove them, I'm replacing them with now the tree branches. So I can still focus on this piece and continue to build it off of the card. This way, in case I've got to shift it or anything else, I don't have too much glue in place and touching the background to rip the cardstock. Now I'm just adding the different tree pieces. So you can make your trees look any way that you want. And by creating these layers, these overlapping layers on the branches and the other sections of the tree, it creates a really cool effect with all of those layers. So just playing around, seeing how I want the trees to be laid out, and also trying to keep somewhat of an even layer when it comes to spreading over the image that I have there. I don't want to go too far out on one side and not on the other. You have large pieces for the tree, you've got some medium pieces, and then you've got these smaller ones, which I think are great for fillers. And you can alternate your colors. So I chose 2 different shades of green when it comes to the trees. And I think it creates a really cool effect. So now I'm going to focus in on those last 2 pieces of foam squares and just add this splash of color. So just like the chimney coming off the house, that splash of color is that blue, that aqua blue, to just give a little bit of hint and to help pop the scenery out from the background. We're going to place those in behind the house like I did there, and then we're also going to place them throughout the books that are laying down. And again, we're just layering them because I have not adhered any of the books yet, so I'm still able to play with how we're going to put those in place. Adding glue to the back now of our focal point. And we're going to get that set down first. Because I didn't trim the leaves coming out from the bottom, they're going to be hidden by the books that will be underneath. I'm using an acrylic block to just put pressure to hold this down. Again, I'm setting this piece down onto a 3D embossing folder texture base. So I just want to make sure that it does grab a hold of those areas. And of course, without flattening out the texture that we have. Once we have those in place, now setting the books down that are laying underneath. And then setting our last one. But before we do that, I want to make sure that I also have branches coming out from underneath this, going down below as well. I'm using double-sided foam squares. And these are the low rise. They're not as thick as typical foam squares, so I'm going to double them up. And then we're going to get those set in place as well. Looking at that placement, I'm going to continue underneath on the other side with the greenery, cutting some of them down so I don't have to trim them off from the card base. And that is our card for today. I think it's got a lot of great potential. When it comes to the color scheme, you can have a lot of fun with that to create your own classic fairy tale, and I say that in quotes. As always, I will have linked down below the 2 club kits that I used for March of 2024, and I'll also have a link to all of the club kits. Remember, they do create bundles and have bundles available where it gives you even more of a savings every month. I'll also have linked to their shop and also the gallery so that you can be inspired by so many more wonderful creators with Spellbinders. Remember to subscribe, remember to hit that thumbs up, but most of all, remember, enjoy the process. Have fun with the art that you are creating. Don't get frustrated. There is no stress. Just enjoy this wonderful medium of paper. But most of all, and always remember, be creative in everything that you do and every day, and I will talk to you in the next one. Till then.